Chptr31. The crocota shook the flames and ash from its hide nonetheless for wear. The beast seemed more annoyed at the fact it was now visible than it was just being bathed in a spell-induced lather of flames. The heat produced by the mage's flames may have proved harmful to lesser creatures, but to the crocota, it was nothing more than a delaying tactic. But now, that is past, and it was focused once again on its duties. The massive beast charged the girl that smelled like home with all intentions of ensuring that she herself never saw home again. To the crocota's amusement, she evaded its first strike. With a combination of a pirouette and her earlier used blocking spell, she gave him the slip. 5,000 pounds of biting savagery just missed its target. The clamping jaws sounded like a small explosion. The young mage ended her twist in a ceremonious bow. Then she called forth the winds. She orchestrated them along the ground until they converged beneath the crocota, and with a raising of her arms, the winds elevated the beast. Skyward it went flopping wildly like a hooked fish until it crashed on its side back to solid ground. The crocota quickly scrambled to its feet and rushed the girl, but as it closed the space between them, it altered its attack at the last moment. The beast drifted, scraping as it slid sideways, kicking up earth and debris with its claws. It sent up a cloud of dust and stone like confetti, obscuring her line of sight. Then the beast leaped, turning head over tail, landing behind the dust cloud and the girl. Before she could recover and gain her bearings, the crocota was on her. The beast clamped down on her shoulder, encasing it in its diamond-spike-toothed mouth. Mamek's cursed devil hound closed its mouth down tighter until the tips of his teeth met midway through her body. And, with this, she let out a loud, soul-wrenching scream. The thunderous pounding of his heart, the ferocious snarling, and the bear-trapped snapping jaws of the crocota, combined with the blaring sound of approaching sirens, were all like the flapping wings of a butterfly compared to the paralyzing scream that cascaded over the park. His mind wrestled with the implications harder than he did with the crocota in his grasp. There was no way a girl so small could make a sound so big and filled with so much pain. BLOODWYND hurled the crocota from him, sending it crashing to the rooftops in the far distance of Myring Park. He scanned in the general direction he last saw Fernay battling with the other beast. To his horror, he saw her still trapped in the crocota's massive mouth. His heart skipped as it raised its head and flung her bloody body to one side. "No!" mumbled BLOODWYND, tears building in his white eyes. "Not again!" Suddenly, the memory of the young girl lost in the fire months ago stabbed him in the base of his skull like a shard of cold steel. The words shook the air itself. "Not again!" Even the crocota, with a Fernay's blood staining its muzzle, recoiled, if not but for a second. BLOODWYND didn't know if it was the rage or the guilt, but something solid snapped in him. And all the barriers, all the walls of Fernay pushed him to remove from between himself and the heart of Inamde shattered. He and the jewel were of one accord, and the crocota was marked. BLOODWYND's voice projected out as if it originated from the birthplace of the universe itself. "That will be the last damn thing you ever do!" The sound was like a meteor breaking through the upper atmosphere. And like a meteor, BLOODWYND flew at the crocota. The beast had no time to attack, no time to counter or flee. It only had time to absorb the impact. There was no sound from the beast when BLOODWYND slammed into it, not one hint of a yelp or growl, only the wisp of oxygen leaving a living thing. Upward they went, and before they were a full 50 feet off the ground, BLOODWYND hammered the crocota with 11 mountain-splitting blows. BLOODWYND finished the bombardment with a double-fisted axe chop that sent the creature's debilitated body crashing to the waiting ground below. Bloodwind hung there for a moment, looking down at the Krakota. It was motionless. What must be blood, black and foamy, leaked from its open mouth. Satisfied that the beast was done, he located Aferne and flew to her. A small group of people surrounded her, and a woman dressed in scrubs, he prayed was a nurse, but soon recognized as he drew closer, was the owner of the child care center nearby. She cradled Aferne as if she was her own child, speaking softly to her. "She doesn't look too good, hero," said a tall young man who looked to be a year or two older than Aferne was. Bloodwind kneeled by her side. "Hang in there, Sister Magic, please." He spoke in the same mystic voice as before, but this time it was drunk with sadness. Aferne's eyes were full of tears, her face just as full with pain. Still, she spoke like someone twice her age. "Don't let yourself be taken to a dark place because I have fallen. Rise with the light and fight for those who cannot." Aferne took a deep, troubled breath and reached out to Bloodwind. "I failed again," he said gently as he took her hand in this. "I failed to save the girl again." "But we didn't need saving," she said in a fading voice. "You did." Aferne squeezed his hand as hard as her broken body would allow, and a small grief-melting smile spread over her face. "Go save the world." The heart of Anamde began to glow. The reflection danced in Aferne's eyes. The glow then grew into a bright shine that caused everyone but Bloodwind to cover their own eyes, and when it was done, Aferne's hand went limp in his. Hot electric tears flowed down Bloodwind's face, and as he stood to his feet, with Aferne draped in his arms, the world seemed to move in reverse. His senses began to realign, and the muted world was molested by familiar sounds. Screams, shouts, and blaring sirens filled the air. Bloodwind focused and realized that the entire area around Meyering Park was littered with police presence. But they weren't focused on him. He turned to see that every officer had their weapons drawn, and those drawn weapons were all pointed at the same thing. The other Krakota, the one he had tossed to the rooftops, had returned. There it stood, over the beast he had dispatched moments ago. It growled in its deep, hellish growl through tight, vibrating jaws. The creature's head moved about slowly, taking in the police, until it locked its eyes on the one that had slayed its packmate. The police and bystanders watched with bated breath as the two engaged in this warrior's stare-down, and an understanding was reached, one sealed in blood. The hulking devil hound nodded a slow nod, then with speed something its size shouldn't possess, lowered its head, grabbing its packmate around the neck, and went into full roll over the fallen one's body. The beast ended again on all fours with the dead Krakota saddled across its back. The Krakota began to tremble softly, and after giving Bloodwind one final stare with those cold cerulean eyes, they were gone. Only the jostle of several police cars mapped its path of escape. It was a short, taming pause, but the shock and fear level lowered in everyone present. Then all eyes were on the hero known as Bloodwind. They watched as he stood there, looking down at the young girl in his arms, the young girl unknown to them, that was from another earth. He was quickly coming to the realization that he cared for her more than he could have believed. She was so strong and determined, willing to fulfill a purpose, willing to let the unbothered, happy-go-lucky days of youth fall sacrificed at the altar of service. A duty to a planet of people, her people. She was a blessing. She was also a hero. And the people of Moja will know what she surrendered for the promise of their liberation. Bloodwynd would make certain of that. They all will know her sacrifice. They all will know her name. A Ferne will go down in Moja history. He was going to make sure of that. I'm going to take you home, Sister Magic. Then I'm going to help your world know the freedom you dreamed of. He spoke those words with a firm certainty because he knew he was going to do just that. But first, he had to take her to a place he was sure she felt was like a second home. And he knew that his heart wouldn't be the only one broken in Chicago this day. Bloodwynd lifted his tear-soaked face to the sky, and with a hop, he was off, watched until he was out of sight by everyone present at Myring Park. To be continued.